Here we go. It is now January the 13th, Wednesday, 8 o'clock. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming back to watch my podcasts on Blue Star Media YouTube channel. And if you get a chance, subscribe at the bottom, or at least put on the bell that will tell you a notification whenever I do these, so you don't have to check. But then if you see Twitter, I'm going to put it up there anyway. It'll be under Mike Flynn or be under Blue Star Media. I'm going to try to get this done fast, trying to keep these within 15 to 30 minutes. And a lot of interesting news. I think the big one Monday was, and I was going to come on Monday, but Monday night was the football championship. So I guess that's why I didn't talk to a lot of people that night. And what came out of Monday was that they tabled the NIL vote, which was a big deal. And I think it's really a big deal because what came out of it is some intriguing stuff. Let's get right into it. In a letter to NCAA Emirate, President Emirate, Assistant U.S. District Attorney General Dellum shared concern on the association's approach to regulating NIL and transfer rules, concluding, this is huge. Ultimately, the antitrust laws demand that college athletics, like everyone else in our free market economy, benefit appropriately from competition. He said the Justice Department stands ready to enforce antitrust laws if the NCAA fails to, quote, remove unnecessary anti-competitive barriers that bar athletes from transferring, such as reducing or eliminating scholarships. Wow. I cannot be any happier. I'll say it again. Sherman Antitrust, 1993, Blue Star Productions versus NCAA. That was the door. And I'm very happy about that because my belief was that what they said is competitive barriers was true. And there's some other interesting pieces that's going to connect the dots as to why that all came about as I go through here. Because there's going to be a big, mostly about NIL stuff and some tidbits at the end. U.S. Senators Booker and Blumenthal released a statement regarding the NCAA's decision to delay the vote in the NIL and one-time transfer legislation. Quote, fair compensation delayed is fair compensation denied. Yet again, the NCAA has missed an opportunity to finally do right by college athletics. The NCAA's delay reinforces the need for Congress and individual states to move forward with legal remedies that will provide college athletes with rights that the NCAA continues to neglect. The NCAA's disappointing decision further fuels our commitment to passing a strong college athletes' Bill of Rights that will truly advance justice and opportunity for college athletics. Key is, you're not a college athlete till you leave high school. That's going to take part here because if they can't control the athlete there, they've been doing it for high school. So, another article says the NCAA, during a 4-hour meeting Monday afternoon, or Sunday, was expected after the NCAA President Mark Emmert recommended a pause on voting over the weekend. Any decisions are expected by the end of June on the case. May, April, June by the time they do the deliberations. This is, I put these things in red so that you can get the emphasis. Emmert's call for a delay came after U.S. Attorney General Mark Dellum raised antitrust concerns about proposals in the NIL legislation that could restrict competition. The NCAA marketplace, which I said back in April and May, notice that disappeared. Then all of a sudden you have all these companies being hired by the universities to act as a shadow enforcement group because the NCAA is saying we can't do it. You have to do it. They couldn't tell the conference to do it because then it's collusion. So there you go. Some administrators favored voting on one-time transfer rule because it is not as controversial as NIL legislation. Other members felt that the council was overreacting to antitrust warnings from an outgoing assistant attorney general. Well, they expect Biden to replace somebody leaner. Not with those senators. Nuh-uh. AFCA, don't know what that is. Executive Director Barry, and there's another article, insists that coaches are not against the adoption of NIL, for noting that we recognize that there needs to be some significant changes to the recruiting structure and what student athletes' opportunities are. This is where it becomes into play. And remember this. The problem we have is that the regulations and restrictions we have that provide for this protective scholastic model that can get you a degree is significant. Protective scholastic model. Well, it should be protective collegiate model, but they made it scholastic. Thinking, interesting. You have to trace yourself back to the 70s and 80s. You know, everybody's recruiting. Yeah, that's what the parents and grandparents now know. And they're saying, hey, forget under the table. This ain't John Wick. It's over the table. It's above the table. It's going to be transparent and legal. That's why the FBI, again, who did they ever net? They got all these schools. Has anybody heard anything about it? Has any coaches, anything happened to them? Don't mess with your money. NCAA is not going to hurt their money. So, regarding the one-time transfer rule, Barry points out the rules were initially put in place to prevent tampering, which is a concern coaches still have. Tampering? Really? They're nuts. Okay, well, that's going to be a big one because those are legitimate concerns. If you have a good player, you could lose your team, your top player. They could go up. But hey, door works the other way, which they're not pointing out. Here's an opportunity to get rid of people, run them off the team, go down, play, go across and play, go to the school that you thought you wanted to go to that thinks they like you now. I don't know. But I guess this has more to do with colleges. Bowl season executive director Camparelli, oh, this is a good one, believes student athletes NIL debate should come with the stipulation of required participation in bowl games. Oh yeah, participation in bowl games. So you get a scholarship, you get NIL, you got to play in the bowl game. But you need to play for the school NIL. But are you playing for your own NIL? Unless they're going to let you wear the school name. But then if you try to say I'm going pro early, you could pick a pro team and put their jersey on and mark it yourself. I don't know. Listen, these are days they tried to not have, and it's just a new day. We're in the second decade of the 21st century. This ain't 60 years ago. And things were simpler. We're in a different world. Okay, Yahoo Stalin identifies several subplots to keep an eye on after speaking with several industry leaders. Oh yeah, we've talked about this, but it's not really coming up because everybody's concerned about NIL. But you heard the story where the Knight Commission said the Power 5 or the Power 5 football programs need to leave the NCAA. Well, they're in favor of that, without a doubt. It's like, but can they get out of it and still use the school name? That's the problem. They haven't figured that out, unless they thought of the idea I wrote in 2012 or voiced over for many months here. Just get the NIL from the school with the TV money you're getting and pay them for use of the name. So if the players are making money off of their name, the schools are making money off of their name. Oh, but they've been doing that, but they haven't been paying the players. So this is another way for the school to get paid without having legal responsibility for the sport. They're just renting the name. And then wait for all the activist group to go after that one. So he says, first, he advises to watch out for another wave of conference realignments, without a doubt. He points that the Big 10, Big 12, and Pac-12 have expiring media contracts. That means they can all move around because they're all able to. The ACC is locked through 20, 35, 36. So remember this, if you're an ACC school, you're leaving the ACC. You're not, the conference can't leave, it's media deals. Now they'll get a buyout, but I'd rather be with the football people because they're stuck. And if you didn't know, some of these groups have formed new nonprofits. While people aren't paying attention, new nonprofits are being set up for all these possible new opportunities. And he wrote, more including the possibility of and arguments against the Power 5 breaking away from the NCAA. Yeah, well, are they breaking away? Can't go with football, Title IX, no matter what. Take basketball, take women's basketball, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball. And if you want to take softball, drop soccer. I don't know, maybe add it. It's a numbers game. Once you get those numbers, school's out. And guess what? What's really intriguing is that they're talking about what's going to happen to all those sports: golf, squash, tennis, swimming, track and field. What's going to happen to those sports? Track and field was a huge, huge place for a lot of minority students or people of color to get scholarships because it came about athletic ability, athletic privilege. So if you're privileged to have the athleticism to play a particular sport, one or the other, that's an advantage, and you want to take hold of it, which means you can get an education with a scholarship. And that afforded a lot of people, when other sports like football and basketball weren't open, track and field was open because they were able to come in and establish a lot of great things. And now what's getting cut? Track and field. In fact, a lot of people are calling that a social justice issue, if you want to say. But then I said to somebody, well, BLM just raised $10.6 billion. I want you to hear the word, $1 billion. Why aren't they setting up a national track endeavor with some of that money to get those kids scholarships or to retain those college programs? If not even for the NCAA, just do it at the historic black colleges. Make sure that they have all the dominant track and field teams. What's wrong with that? You know, put that money, make the money work. God knows where it went, not my say. 10.6 billion. We need to change lives with that. Because a lot of people did a lot and took a lot to get that done. And it was a very uncomfortable time in our country. It still resonates. So we just can't let those days go by without getting, you can't dig the ground, plant the seeds, and forget the flowers or the fruit or what nourishment you can get from it. You gotta have something good coming from it. Okay. What that tells you is that regarding the NCAA, upcoming NCAA legislation issues, SEC Commissioner Sankey asserts the annual 25-player cap on new football enrollees should be adjusted to reflect the sport's growing transfer market. So now football wants a cap off their 25-player limit because of transfers. What does that tell you? So if in basketball you have 12 on your roster, 13 for men or 12 for men, 13 for men, 15 for women, who are you getting rid of? And we talked about this earlier. If you were supposed to have 5 players leave and you signed 5 early, and those 5 seniors just declare to come back, you've got 20 on your roster. Who's paying for them? Or who's leaving? Who's getting cut? Who's getting thrown off? Who's told they're not getting a scholarship? In a COVID year, everybody gets forgiveness in COVID. Why? Because nobody expects it. It's not a normal environment or year. And if anybody tries to hold things in a COVID year or environment, pure selfishness or there's other motives. So that's big. Next thing, and this is more of a tidbit. The NBA met with the NBA Players Association, modifying the league's health and safety protocols, and sources indicate to ESPN that the NBA has also rescheduled a special Board of Governors meeting. This comes after the league called off 2 more games because of COVID-related and contract tracing issues. Mavericks and Pelicans today, Bulls, Celtics tomorrow. Those moves increase the total games postponed this season because the coronavirus rate matters to 4. That means the league will have 3 straight days of postponements. What's that mean? 2 things. One was the discussion that it wasn't the players who did it. It's their friends from outside. They brought people in and spread COVID. So basically, the teams were not adhering to not even a hard bubble, a soft bubble. They were catching COVID by outsiders. Yo, come on, hang out. They brought it in. No, then all of a sudden, they get postponed. But you have to remember, every game that gets postponed is going to come out of the money totals that the players get. As I said here, and some people yelled at me about it, the players were boycotting their own money. And what did it take, a week and a half, 2 weeks for them to come back? And they came back. The ratings went down, the messaging, but didn't matter. It was still their money and their contractual fees for the standard money that they had for the TV contracts. So they did the right thing for themselves because it's their money. They get the majority. Well, they must have had something written in here for a clause that if you don't play games, we're not paying for it, and that's your money too. I don't know. It's going to be intriguing to see what the fan base is going to be for sports overall as we move down the road, because the NBA was 68 to 72% off. Some people had 78. The football championships or playoffs were off 3% total, and they expected it to go up. And I didn't see the exact numbers, but they said the college football championships were down. So if you have a decline in viewership and interest in collegiate and pro sports, then there's a lot of messaging going around. And I'm waiting for the truth and reality of that real conversation that is going to happen at some point. And there are some people who are no longer watching pro or collegiate sports that everybody used to watch because they just don't like that space. This is why people love youth basketball or youth sports, because it doesn't have all that politicization. But unfortunately, it's coming here too. It will arrive. It'll arrive for certain sports first. Basketball will be one of them, if it's not here already or it's been here. And it's going to hit other sports, which means that if you take the population decline that's coming, guaranteed fact, then sports is going to be for the affluent, the athletic affluent, the athletes who have privilege, athletic privilege, or the kids who have athletic privilege. They're quick, they're tall, they're speedy, they're skilled, they play hard, just because, and don't matter. But if you have those attributes that I said before, 4 of them, you're going to move forward in the sport because you will succeed. And when you don't succeed, you're going to move to other sports that take less. And unfortunately, for girls basketball, it's the hardest sport to play because it requires a lot of things: height, speed, skill, aggression. Other sports are easier. So will that change? No. The number one thing that's going to kill regular physical sports of the mind, it'll be Egames, because you can get on here and do your games. And if you're losing, you quit the game. It's beautiful. You never lose. Everybody doesn't have to get a medal, but nobody ever loses. Think about that one. All right, enough of that. NBC Universal deploys AI to help Olympic markers shape creatives in design and divisive times. The tool uses machine learning to examine the efficacy of nearly 700 past Olympic ads and provides suggestions to improve advertisers' messaging. That means diversity, social inclusion, all the key words that people want today. And it's kind of intriguing that if you go on YouTube and you look at the Star Wars debate as to Mandalorian, yes, I saw it, and the last 3 trilogies and how that was done, and the entire community talking about all that, and just the whole arc of where that was going. We're seeing that, that change of people are having a voice to say, you know what? when are people who are heavy going to be respected so you can get a 4K, a 4XL jacket or a 5XL jacket, and you can really feel comfortable. But as soon as I go into a store, it stops at XL. And if it's double XL, it's meant for slim XL people. So, hey, not everything's fair, but I'm just trying to tell you is that, characters and marketing has to reflect what the future is. And if you really want to get a taste of it, as I said months ago, go to CNBC and watch every commercial in a 3-hour stretch from 8 a.m. to 11, and you'll see that change the narrative, that really it's the middle class. It's not about color. It's about money, the color green. That's where CNBC is. And so it's marketing to everybody that's a middle class person. And if you don't believe me, just look at the commercials and say, hey, did that look like your house growing up? I know it's not mine. My house has never been included in any of that. So that's something for people to observe and to say, hey, better times are coming, because there's more thoughtfulness given to what the future is. Another one, natural light creates the world's most expensive piece of art to highlight student debt crisis. The Da Vinci of debt installation, must have been in MoMA up in New York, made up from 2,600 real college diplomas, is part of the brand's ongoing post-secondary debt relief program. Basically, here's another one. They're going to ask for the athletes to get paid. And there are some companies that pay engineers or pay like really smart students. They'll take their debt. If you go into military service or governmental service, you get some of your debt written off. And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, you know what? College is expensive. It's for the rich. It's for the haves, not the have-nots. And if you grew up being a have-not and you or your parents worked hard to get above that, I'm not going to Walmart, I'm going to Target. You all know those jokes. No. Or was it going from, it begins with an A. Aldi's. Okay, going to Aldi's to Gennardi's or something like that. Really. Dollar General. Oh, I don't go to Dollar General. I go to Target. I don't go to Dollar General. I go to Walmart. Everybody wants to have better. That's why you buy shoes. You buy sneaks. You buy clothes. It's aspirational. I'll never forget that. Learning from hanging around a certain individual who taught me a lot. And he basically said, you need to understand all this. And I did. And be realistically, why we buy. I think I have a book here, why we buy. And I also have why she buys. And I guess it was that Mel Gibson movie. And then they made another one for a female version about what people buy. And it's going to come back down to, you have to have ads that approach that sweet spot demographic, which is the middle class that has purchase power. The rich, they don't care. And the poor, well, not poor, it's have not. You could be you could be above that poverty level and still feel like a have not. And then you're going to be out there. We saw it this summer, and we're going to continue to see it into the winter, and it's not going to go away. And unfortunately, sports, which was a haven to get away from it, is no longer a haven. And everybody that's on here is going to have that debate. That's why people want college sports back, and I hope it comes back. And we're ready for next September. Now, two more pieces and one more thing on college athletics. WNBA Washington Mystics forward Ariel Powers, an avid streamer, is pushing diversity in esports as part of a more formalized partnership recently signed with Team Liquid. Powers will serve as a brand and diversity ambassador. I mean, she's getting paid to hang out. to make sure it's all not like white nerdy kids. But if you really want to see nerdy, go to YouTube and bring up The Mandalorian, Chapter 16, Final Reactor's View. You want to see diversity? Full blown. God bless. If you talk about passion, I got to give it to them. And it was awesome to watch, because I think I must have watched one of them, Gamma Ray, 3 times. That's the best one. If you want to watch it, go to YouTube, Gamma Ray. I think he put up the best reactor's reaction for Chapter 16 of The Mandalorian. We have to be cultural too here. In October, Power signed with the esports and gaming division of Ford Models. Really? But the deal was not negotiated by the agency. She says, I work closely with my brand management company, Levels Unlocked Enterprises, in forging this partnership. So basically, what you're seeing is you're going to see a lot of female basketball NBA type players setting up out of the summer stuff and trying to wrap their hands around that $10.6 billion of marketing opportunity to launch their own businesses and to create their own agencies, etc. I have absolutely no problem. In fact, I hope AZ Fudd and Tim Fudd get moving to create their own agency. And he knows I talked to him about it, because I'm not doing it. But I did tell him, if you do this, it would be brilliant. But here's another person who's stepping forward before she's done with her career. And that goes to the last thing. As we close up on 27. A lot of parents are still waiting to figure out what's going on with basketball. High school basketball starting. I got a phone call yesterday asking me, hey, are people wearing masks? And I'm like, I don't know. Happened to get a call. Went to a game, my first game last night. And I saw 2 teams play with masks on. And I said, wow, they're playing? They go, yeah. And the conference said if they didn't wear masks, they weren't playing. Because this one school wasn't going to wear a mask. And they said, nobody's going to play you. So they all wore a mask, number one. Number 2, I went to the AD, and this is a pretty affluent, really big number school. How many people tried out for girls basketball? 21. 21. How many people tried out for boys basketball? 54. What is this telling you? I said it. I keep saying it. And I'm going to repeat it. So it's going to be intriguing, because there are some leagues are playing 15 games. Some are playing 8 to 10. One winner's going to the state championship. What if you have a bad game? No playoffs. Jersey's supposed to be done early with 12 league games. Not even maybe a conference final. That's it. I talked to Chris Law, who does our high school girls and boys basketball rankings that you can see on Blue Star Media. And it's on our Facebook page. And he's telling me that they're full-blown in Texas. Florida's playing, Georgia, some other states are playing. Some states are canceling their games. They're canceling other sports. They may play football, they may play basketball, but they may be canceling other sports. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody in basketball has talked about the impact of volleyball or lacrosse on this on COVID and its effects on them. And we hope to start including some of that. Why? Is because it's about female athletes and where they're going and what's going to be successful for them. I'm just letting you know that we don't know until the state governors in PA, New Jersey, New York, etc., start allowing cross-border participation. Then that's where youth 18 and under, at least in this region, go. People are leaving the area to go someplace else, but that's a whole nother story. And lastly, everybody's thinking about what's going to happen in March. That's the big talk right now. And everybody's up in the air because there could be events and facilities, but still with restrictions, or parents can't come in, at least early March for sure. Then we get to May, April, May. Is April going to happen? Probably, but certain states are going to have to open. Otherwise, those events will not run. Coaches are not going to be out. And I've heard the discussion about coaches out in June and July. I've heard the talk about coaches out in July. I've heard the talk about no coaches out at all because of budgets and to protect the validity of their student body when they come back. So, or would you rather have the time for on-campus visits so you can do your in-face recruiting or waste your time going to a game that kid you don't know if you're getting? And the whole marketing and streaming and packets and everything else. NCAA is opening their wall for scouting service certification. It'll be interesting to see if there's going to be a cost for that service, which is going to be intriguing. And just remember this: why are you registering with the NCAA when anybody that's doing a service is registering with the school and the state business office? We'll come back to that in a future episode. You class of 21s and 22s. Hopefully, next few days, I'm going to dedicate some of this podcast time for you because you're going to need it. And some of the things that Blue Star is going to be doing in the spring, and that some of the other people like a Joe Fenelon, and Dan Olson, and Peter London, and some others around the country are going to put together over the next few months, and to look to see how we can help, get the word out there to a coaching community that's very cautious. And I'll probably have a podcast for the coaches and the community to talk about, their responsibilities and what they need to do. These are unknown times. They're not pretty times. And I have to, at least we're in a friendlier environment where at least the WBCA is no longer our enemy, but a possible ally in trying to come up with solutions. We don't know, because in the past, a handful of the top coaches kept it as their fiefdom, where they made the rules that protect their programs. Well, really, do they really need protection? I thought we just witnessed, the effect of domination in basketball. In football, but also I could bring up the example for basketball and how that changed. But then that's a whole nother story. Thank you for your time, and look forward to the next podcast. And I'm going to tweet this out shortly after I get it loaded up onto the YouTube site. I appreciate all your time. Thank you.